So, House Democrats yesterday, as we discussed they were about to do, released a resolution to formalize the impeachment inquiry into Donald Trump. So, understand that so far, they've been pre interviewing witnesses in private, in accordance with the law, by the way, as I will shortly remind you in the next segment, a very interesting segment upcoming. This is now an impeachment inquiry resolution. The House is expected to vote on it Thursday, and it outlines the process that is going to be taking place to inquire about whether Donald Trump should be impeached by the House of Representatives, ultimately, subsequently, to be voted on by the Senate. What does the resolution say? Well, for starters, at its conclusion, the inquiry is going to create a public report of their findings. And this is important in the sense that it is one of the areas that has been heavily criticized by Republicans, that everything is happening, quote, in secret. Well, in reality, nothing has actually happened yet. There's just been pre-interviewing of witnesses. But at the conclusion of this inquiry, there will be a public report that is going to be issued. Now, importantly to Donald Trump, who, as you may know, has been complaining about there's no due process. I'm not getting any due process here, even though we simply didn't get to that point yet. Nothing wrong has happened so far. The resolution outlines the due process that Donald Trump is going to get. And you can make the argument that it's actually generous to Donald Trump. The resolution outlines some new due process rights for the president of the United States. Overall, in a sort of balanced, sober, rational analysis, there's really nothing controversial in the resolution whatsoever. It's very similar to the process that was employed during Bill Clinton's impeachment back in 1998. The difference being that with Bill Clinton, there was this independent counsel report. Remember this guy, Ken Starr, who was brought in to investigate Bill Clinton. There was a report which was presented to the House committees involved by the independent counsel, specifically to the Judiciary Committee. This time, it's a little bit different. The House itself will be doing the investigating, and it will be the entity, the Judiciary Committee will be the entity issuing the full report rather than receiving it from a special prosecutor, independent prosecutor. So now the rubber is sort of going to start meeting the road. And what I mean by that is we're going to see very quickly if Republicans and Donald Trump settle down over there are no guidelines and no due process, because the resolution gives them everything that they've been asking for. Now, of course, there's a chance, call me a skeptic, call me a cynic, there's a chance that it wasn't really about process and guidelines all along. It was just something that Republicans and Trump grasped onto like a last desperate straw to try to stop what it is that is going on. But in any case, if we go by what they've said, Republicans have been asking for their own subpoena power to bring in witnesses. They are being given that by this resolution. Donald Trump has been asking or demanding or complaining about not having due process. He is getting that. We have very clear guidelines here for what this process is going to look like and what the deliverable is going to be. Deliverable, by the way, doesn't have to be a bad word, although when Donald Trump uses it, it often alludes to corruption. The deliverable in this case will be a report, a public report, summarizing the impeachment inquiry. Trump wanted due process, and the resolution gives him that, and it's really important to remember that. The resolution also, by the way, outlines, and this is where it starts to get very interesting, the resolution outlines the possibility of public hearings, which would be just endlessly fascinating. Congressman Jim McGovern, who's a Democrat from Massachusetts, chairman of the Rules Committee, he released the resolution yesterday afternoon. I actually bumped into Jim McGovern over the weekend in Northampton, Massachusetts at the world famous Haymarket Cafe. Very exciting moment for me. He clearly forgot who I was and had no recollection of having met me. But regardless, Jim McGovern releasing for us yesterday the resolution. So prepare yourselves now for just a new wave of bad faith arguments from Republicans about how this is still unfair, how it's still a witch hunt, how it is still a terrible, unfair example of presidential harassment, and also expect the White House to again start moving the bar, to come up with new excuses for why they are going to be ignoring and directing everyone under their purview to ignore all subpoenas. Because before it was there's no guidelines, there's no due process, it's an open-ended secret thing that's going on. Now we've been told Here are the guidelines. Here is the due process. And there will be a public report after possibly public hearings. They will come up with something new to justify in their minds and in the minds of their supporters why they are going to not cooperate with this inquiry. What I am most looking forward to is that in the resolution, this is just great, it mentions 45 minutes of uninterrupted questioning of witnesses by each side. Democrats would get 45 minutes, and then Republicans would get 45 minutes with witnesses in public testimony. If you've watched congressional testimony before, you probably remember that before there is even a prelude and one question asked, they're low on time because oftentimes each member of the House will get 5 minutes. It's just not enough time. Still, sometimes there are fireworks, but it is not enough time. 45 minutes of uninterrupted questioning of a single witness. The fireworks and the implosions that we could see in 45 minutes of straight questioning could be absolutely glorious. And I am very, very much looking forward to it. And this may be in the end, Republicans shooting themselves in the foot by demanding transparency because now they have it. And it doesn't look like it's the type of transparency that is going to be particularly good for the narrative that they have been crafting. More upcoming on this, I am sure. I want to hear from you. How do you think the vote will go in the House? Well, the most straightforward prediction is just a straight party line vote. And what do you expect if and when these public impeachment inquiry hearings actually get going?